Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
All right, faithful, grab a seat. Because ESPN just did something we've all been begging for. They went team by team, position by position, and dropped their projected starting lineup for all 32 NFL teams before training camp even opens. And when the dust settled on San Francisco's projection, there was some good news, there was some head-scratching news, and there was one glaring red flag flashing so bright it could probably be seen from space. So grab your popcorn, because we're breaking down exactly where ESPN thinks this 49ers roster stands right now. The strength, the weakness, the X factor, and the sneaky non-starter nobody's talking about, and trust me, some of this is going to make you want to scream at your screen. Let's dive in. First things first, the big picture number. ESPN ranked every single roster in the league from top to bottom, and San Francisco landed at number 11. 11th. Now, before you either celebrate or riot in the comments, let's put that in context. The Rams, yes, the very same division rival the 49ers have to claw past, sit at number 1 overall. The Eagles, the defending juggernaut of the NFC, sit at number 2. So the 49ers are firmly in that good, not great, on-paper tier, and here's the thing that's driving that ranking down more than anything else: age and injury history. This is one of the older rosters in the entire NFL right now. Sure, there's talent. Sure, there's star power dripping off nearly every position group. But Father Time and the injury bug have both been circling this franchise for years, and evaluators aren't ignoring it anymore. It's baked directly into the grade. Now let's actually walk through this projected lineup position by position, because there's a lot to unpack here. And some of it is going to spark real debate in Niner Nation. Quarterback is about as locked in as it gets. Brock Purdy is your starter, Mac Jones is the backup, and ESPN flat out called this one of the best quarterback rooms in the entire NFL. And honestly, they're not wrong. ESPN went out of their way to praise Purdy specifically, pointing to his continued strong play combined with Mac Jones stepping in during relief duty last year and actually looking competent doing it. That combination alone was enough to push quarterback to the very top of San Francisco's strengths. Now, yes, durability has been the nagging question mark hovering over Purdy's career. We all know it. No use pretending otherwise. But when the man is actually on the field, his efficiency has been nothing short of elite. Across his 3 seasons as a starter, he's finished ranked 1st, 7th, and most recently 2nd in QBR. Let that marinate for a second. And here's the stat that should shut up every remaining Purdy doubter once and for all. The man threw 20 touchdown passes in only 9 games last season. 20 in 9 games. That kind of pace was matched by exactly one other quarterback in the entire league, Matthew Stafford. And he did it all while his receiver room was getting decimated by injury after injury after injury. Say what you want, but the tape doesn't lie. At running back, it's Christian McCaffrey, obviously, and the man led the entire NFL in overall touches last season, which is an absolutely wild stat considering everything this offense went through. But here's a whisper of concern creeping into the picture. McCaffrey is entering his age 30 season now, and workload at that age for a running back always raises an eyebrow. The real intrigue, though, is the backup role behind him. Will it be Kaelon Black, San Francisco's somewhat surprising 3rd-round pick? Or does Jordan James push his way into that conversation? That's a genuine training camp battle worth watching closely. And let's not forget about Kyle Juszczyk quietly doing his thing at fullback, a guy who rarely shows up in a box score but does so much of the dirty, behind-the-scenes work that keeps this entire offensive machine running smoothly. Now here's where things get spicy, the wide receiver room. ESPN projects Mike Evans as the clear WR1, and honestly, the scheme fit talk writes itself. A big, physical, contested catch monster slotting perfectly into what Kyle Shanahan wants in the red zone. Ricky Pearsall lines up at WR2, and look, when healthy, that man is an absolute dog on the field. But when healthy is doing some seriously heavy lifting in that sentence, and we all know it by now. Beyond that, it's basically the Wild West. ESPN doesn't even seem convinced Christian Kirk locks down that WR3 spot. Could it be Dearness Johnson? Could Demarcus Robinson sneak in there? What about Jacob Cowing or Jordan Watkins bringing some legitimate slot speed to the table? Do not sleep on either of those names heading into camp. This position battle is genuinely wide open, and it's going to be one of the most fascinating subplots of the entire preseason. And then, of course, there's George Kittle at tight end, working his way back from that gut-wrenching Achilles tear suffered in January. The good news? He was reportedly moving well at tight end university up in Nashville at Vanderbilt Stadium back in June, which, considering that injury happened just months earlier, is a genuinely encouraging sign for where his recovery timeline stands heading into the season. And now the X factor. ESPN didn't hesitate on this one. It's Mike Evans, hands down. And the way they framed it should give every single 49ers fan a small case of the jitters. Evans signed a below-market deal that made him what analysts called a no-brainer addition for this front office. But, and this is a big but, it would be pure foolishness to pretend there's no risk attached here. The man will be 33 years old before the season even kicks off. He played in only 8 games last year. And perhaps most alarmingly, his open score, a metric that runs on a scale from 0 to 99, measuring his ability to separate from coverage, dropped all the way down to a below-average 46 last season. For context, 1 year prior, that same score sat at a sparkling 91. That's not a small dip. That's a cliff. And here's the domino effect ESPN is worried about. If Evans doesn't perform the way San Francisco is hoping and expecting, this offense becomes dangerously reliant on Ricky Pearsall, a guy with his own injury red flags, Christian Kirk, who's dealt with his own durability issues, and rookie second-rounder Deion Stribling, who's completely unproven at the NFL level. In other words, Mike Evans isn't just a nice addition. He might be the single most important swing variable on this entire roster. Speaking of Stribling, ESPN actually tagged him as their notable non-starter to watch. 6'2", runs in the low 4.4s, solid wingspan, good hands, and he's not afraid to get physical and block downfield either. But here's where ESPN dropped a stat that should genuinely worry San Francisco fans heading into 2026. Kyle Shanahan's offense is used to absolutely dominate the league in yards after the catch. Used to. Last season, though, Ricky Pearsall finished dead last in the entire NFL in yak versus expectation. And who was sitting right next to him near the bottom of that same list? A newly acquired Mike Evans. So the burning question becomes, where exactly are these explosive after the catch plays going to come from in 2026? ESPN's theory is that it might just come from this tall, fast, second-round rookie out of Ole Miss who's expected to compete directly with Christian Kirk for slot reps. And look, that's a completely fair concern to raise. This offense wants to get back to being explosive and dangerous after the catch, but right now they're carrying 2 of the least effective yak receivers in the entire league from a season ago. There are certainly schematic ways to work around that limitation, but let's be honest, San Francisco is a long, long way removed from the Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and prime George Kittle days, when this offense was one of the most terrifying yak units in all of football. Shifting over to the offensive line, and this is where Niner fans can breathe a little easier, Trent Williams is still holding down left tackle, and he's still playing at an absolutely elite level despite the mileage on his body. ESPN projects Robert Jones at left guard, a name who started plenty of games in a very similar zone-blocking scheme under Mike McDaniel down in Miami. Though that spot is expected to be a genuine training camp competition, Jake Brendel anchors things at center, Dominic Pooney holds down right guard, and there's real hope he takes another developmental leap in year 3 after a solid but unspectacular year 2, and Colton McKivitz rounds things out at right tackle. Now let's flip over to the defense, because this is where things get a whole lot murkier. San Francisco runs their base 4-3 look, and ESPN is projecting a fascinating battle brewing between Alfred Collins and CJ West at defensive tackle, two young sophomores who are both legitimately strong run stuffers, and that competition alone should be must-watch during camp. Osa Odigizua slots in as an excellent, well-rounded interior presence who can both rush the passer and hold his own against the run. Genuinely one of the smartest, most under-the-radar additions any team made this entire offseason. At the edge positions, it's Nick Bosa and Arik Armstead, and here's the nerve-wracking part. Both of them are currently working their way back from torn ACLs. Two elite edge rushers, both rehabbing the exact same catastrophic injury, both hoping to be full go by the time the lights come on in September. The talent collection is undeniable. The health question marks are equally undeniable. And this brings us to what ESPN flagged as San Francisco's single biggest weakness on the entire roster, the interior defensive line. Now, respectfully, that's a debate worth having, because plenty of people inside Niner Nation would argue safety deserves that dishonorable title instead, but let's hear ESPN out first. This exact same concern plagued the 49ers a season ago, and the results were brutal. San Francisco finished dead last in the NFL in sacks with just 20 total, and 31st in overall pressures with only 1 in 57. Some genuine help arrived in the form of Odigizua, who proved effective while logging 62% of Dallas's defensive snaps across his first 5 professional seasons. But behind him, question marks everywhere. Second-year players Alfred Collins and CJ West, and West specifically tied for the second-worst PFF grade among 115 qualified defensive tackles in the entire league last season. Ouch! Then you've got fourth-round rookie Grayson Helton, who the team just locked up on a 4-year deal. Analytically speaking, ESPN simply does not love this interior defensive tackle group as currently constructed. Fair criticism, though there's an argument these pieces complement each other's strengths and weaknesses well enough to survive. But here's the position that should really be keeping Niner fans up at night: linebacker, and specifically the health of Dre Greenlaw. When Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are both healthy and on the field together, this is legitimately one of the most fearsome linebacking duos in all of professional football. Warner himself has been an absolute Iron Man throughout his career prior to last season. He'd missed exactly 1 game since entering the league back in 2018. That's remarkable durability. Greenlaw, on the other hand, is the wild card. When he's right, he's an absolute unit, a game-wrecking presence sideline to sideline. But when he's healthy, has become the defining, haunting question mark of his entire career trajectory at this point. Go back and rewatch how dominant San Francisco's defense looked in Super Bowl 58 before Greenlaw went down with that gut-wrenching torn Achilles. The man was genuinely all over the field, jogging in from the sideline one moment and crumbling to the turf the next. Classic, painful, all too familiar 49ers injury luck. But make no mistake, when this man is on the field, healthy and rolling, he's a special, special player, and his return next to Warner could be the single biggest swing factor for this entire defense in 2026. Down in the secondary, there's actually a decent amount to feel good about. Deommodore Lenoir continues to fly under the radar as one of the more genuinely underrated cornerbacks in the entire league. Renardo Green is entering a pivotal year 3 after being taken in the 2nd round, and while there have been flashes of real promise across his first 2 seasons, the coaching staff needs to see far more week-to-week consistency out of him now. Ambry Thomas, meanwhile, has real potential to develop into one of the better slot and nickel corners in all of football if things click. But then there's safety. And this, more than the interior defensive line, more than anything else on this roster, might be the position that decides San Francisco's entire season. There simply isn't a clearly established free safety on this roster right now. The 49ers have a couple of strong safety-type players, sure, but a true, rangy, ball-hawking free safety? That void is glaring, And it's not hard to imagine this front office being forced to explore the trade market before final roster cuts if a clean answer doesn't emerge organically out of training camp. So where does all of this leave us heading into 2026? A quarterback room that ESPN itself called one of the best in football. A running back who led the league in touches but is now entering his 30s. A receiver room boasting a massive amount of name-brand talent but carrying real, legitimate durability and explosiveness questions. An offensive line anchored by a future Hall of Famer but stitched together with ongoing competitions. A defensive front loaded with recovering stars and promising youngsters still finding their footing. And a secondary that looks solid at corner but genuinely shaky at safety. This is a team of ifs, but folks, they are good ifs. If Purdy stays upright, if Evans rediscovers his burst, if Bosa and Armstead come back looking anything like themselves, if Dre Greenlaw can somehow finally stay on the field, if all of that breaks right, San Francisco isn't just an 11th ranked roster on paper, they're a legitimate problem for anybody standing in their way come January. So now it's your turn, Niner faithful. How many games do you think this team wins in 2026? Are you buying what ESPN is selling with this projected lineup, or do you think they've got this roster all wrong? Sound off down in the comments and let's get a real conversation going, because I read every single one of them. And if you enjoyed breaking this down with me today, do me a solid, smash that like button, drop a comment with your bold prediction. And make sure you're subscribed here on 49ers Focus so you never miss a single update as we roll toward training camp. Until next time, faithful, stay loud, and let's go Niners.